Well, here we are in Yuma, Arizona, and it's with great pleasure that I'm once again reunited with not only my friend, but my fellow Wolfhound, Willy Williams. And Willie, I cannot thank you enough for you taking your time out and spending a little bit of time with us. And I remember it's been 10 years, and you and I, remember I stayed with you and Gail for a couple of days, and that we had some really good talks and so forth. And unfortunately, that tape thing that I had didn't work out. So we're just going to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that we talked about before. I'm just going to start out with asking you, where were you born and raised?
I was born in Yuma, Arizona, 6/13/49.
Okay, and tell us just a little bit about your mom and dad.
Well, my dad came from Mississippi. He came through here riding the tracks, and then he worked as a mailman, and then an inspection station over the old bridge, and a taxi cab driver. And my mother was born here, though.
And was she a housewife?
She was a waitress.
Okay.
Waitress at the old town, Yuma.
Okay. And how many brothers and sisters do you have?
I only have one sister.
Okay. And then did you only have one sister growing up?
Yeah.
So your mom had you and your sister.
Yeah.
And what is her name?
Annette Roscoe.
And is she still with us?
Oh yeah.
And where does she live?
Here in Yuma.
Oh, okay, okay.
But I haven't seen her in years.
Okay, okay. And now, was your mom, I could be mistaken here, was she like part Indian?
Yeah.
Because you have some Indian.
Yes.
Is it Apache?
Yes, Chiricahua.
Oh, okay, Chiricahua.
Chiricahua, there's 3 tribes, I think, from up north. And on her father's side, that's where that comes from. His mother was captured and then sold to chiefs, and then through it gets rowdy here, and then it got sold, and then she had a baby, and that was her father.
Okay.
And then that's how that came about. Chiricahua Mom always said it was supposed to have been the worst ones. I don't know.
Now, were they around Yuma?
Yeah, they moved. They're like nomads.
Oh, okay.
But they stayed around up above, because she came from a mining town, and she got loose and then escaped.
Oh, for heaven's sake!
And she came down here, and this is how she came through this to Yuma.
Now, were you the oldest or the youngest of the two?
I'm the youngest.
Okay, so, and of course, I remember your mom lived next to you in that trailer.
Yeah.
And how old did your mom live to be?
I think she was 89.
And remember when I got to meet her, she was a sharp.
She was still pretty good shape.
Yeah, she was a sharp, and she was just a little lady, remember?
Yeah, she was.
I got a kick out of her. So when it came, where did you go to school? In Yuma? Did you go to high school in Yuma?
No, I started high school in Kofa.
What was it called?
Kofa.
Oh, okay.
Kofa, like the Kofa Range.
Yep. And then how far did you go there?
I only went to first. I wanted it out.
Okay, what did you do right after that?
Right after that, I was working in the fields and did farm work. And then I joined the Army. I got my mother to sign for me then.
Okay. And how old were you when you enlisted?
I was 17.
Okay. And do you remember when you went in and signed up, did they tell you what kind of a job you were going to have, or were you just signing up and they were going to send you to basic training?
No, they told me. No, it was when I took my health thing. The doctor was so apologetic to me. He said, there's nothing. I can't find nothing wrong with you. I'm going to have to. You're going to be enlisted. He said, I wish I could find something wrong with you, but I can't. I said, that's all right, I'll join.
Yes, yes.
And anyway, I said I wanted to be in infantry right away.
Okay, and where did you go to basic training?
Basic, I went over to Fort Ord, California.
Okay, and I think I told you that's where I took my basic. And then how about,
D33.
and oh yeah, D what?
D33.
I think mine was D43. So
I
we would have been just one building away from each other.
It's on the hill or something.
Yeah.
Those brand new birds.
Yeah, oh, yeah,
Weren't
nice. Yeah, they were concrete, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, tell me, when did they fly you from here up there or bus you or?
No, I got on the bus in El Centro. I went from here to the enlister man took me to El Centro and I signed papers. My dad came in there all drunk. He followed us, drove over there to El Centro, trying to talk me out of this. He said, I don't want you to join up and get in Vietnam. But see, he didn't have no say over me.
Yep, because it was,
Mom did.
and you were already signed in
Yeah,
anyway.
I was done signing. He just,
So the bus ride was a long one up the coast
yeah.
to Fort Ord. Do you remember when the bus went into Fort Ord and it stopped
Yeah.
and the door opened?
Yeah.
Tell me what it was like for the first time being in the Army at Fort Ord.
Got hollered at and everybody get off you dogs. And then I just said, no, no. My first thought was, I don't want to get out, I'll go back home. And I said, well, let's got this far. And as we got off, throw everything in a box or something. Personal, no personal clothes, nothing. Everything was just a
And
new world. A new world.
did it scare you at all?
No, not scared. It confused me.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. And so, tell me a little bit about the actual basic training. What kinds of things do you remember went on there?
Well, we signed up for airborne training. And this unit was an airborne.
Okay.
And our first sergeant was there. And he was airborne. And he was, he must have been 7 foot.
Oh my gosh.
Comparatively, this guy was a big man. And
How much did you weigh when you went into the service?
Oh, I weighed about 120.
So pretty slim?
Yeah, but I was in good shape.
Okay. That was my next question. The physical part of basic training.
Yeah.
Did that bother you?
No.
So you could keep up, you did the ladders across the top and push-ups and
I
it
liked
didn't.
the running.
And you like the running?
Running, because that's what airborne does.
Yeah.
There's a lot of running, and that old man was right there on the head of us. He
Wow.
led us all the way.
And didn't that just amaze you?
He was a man to look up to. Oh man, that guy he was strictly airborne.
And then, do you remember, you guys were probably shooting M14s.
Yeah.
And did you have experience as a kid shooting or hunting? So, or was this kind of new to you?
No, I shot 303,
Okay, yeah.
and that was a British rifle.
British Enfield.
And,
That's correct.
And I'd shot before like that, but not nothing like that.
Yeah. And then do you remember when I think it was basic, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, isn't that when they made us go out on bivouac?
Yeah.
And we got a guy and we each had a tent half. Remember the pup tent, and each person took their poncho and made a tent out of it and so forth.
Yeah.
And at Fort Ord, I remember they called it escape and evasion.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
We only got a taste of that. I didn't get that until the next one.
AIT?
AIT.
Okay, see, I got a little confused there. Sometimes I get those two mixed up. So, all in all, did you do pretty good in basic? I mean, would you say? And then, so graduation comes, and where did they say you were going to take AIT?
Fort Gordon.
Okay.
Fort Gordon, Georgia.
So, how did you get from Fort Ord to Fort Gordon?
Bus again.
Okay. And And they didn't give you any time off between the two classes, did they?
Yeah, I had a couple of weeks, I think.
Or was that after AIT?
No, I think I had a week at least to
Okay.
pass through.
Okay.
'Cause I took a bus. It took me a week to get to the Fort Gordon.
Oh, I suppose, yeah.
Because I didn't know nothing about flying.
Yep, yep.
And then I got on in a day just to get through Texas, or 3 days.
Oh man, isn't that that's the longest drive I've ever taken.
From
So-
here to there.
So when you got to Fort Gordon, was AIT different than basic?
Yeah. It was
Tell me what your recollection of AIT is.
more yelling, and then wouldn't stop. And then I had black sergeants, and I never was around black people too much. And then, but they did all right with me.
And but now this time you got to shoot a lot of weapons.
Yeah.
Tell me what you remember you were shooting in AIT.
Well, let's see. It started with that. They switched us to that M16.
Okay, so they converted to M16s.
First,
Okay.
we was on that BB gun.
Yeah, oh, I remember that with the little disc,
The BB gun,
and they throw the disc up in the air.
that they wanted to teach you the quick draw.
Yeah, that's it.
That was their name for it.
It was quick draw,
And
yeah.
I liked that because it was the cowboy stuff to me.
Exactly.
And then they would flop up with these metal cut-ups, and you go through there and bang, bang. They can tell where you hit and how fast you are.
Did you do good?
Yeah, I did
Oh,
good
that's-
because that's what they wanted.
Yep.
That fastness, because that's what helped me over there in Vietnam. To be quick.
Yep. Yep. And so, after AIT, you pretty much knew when you graduated. Did most of the guys in your class, were they going to Vietnam?
Yeah, we were all going.
And then,
But I speeded it up. I left. I told them I wanted to go into an infantry unit. I was going airborne.
okay.
I should have been with the 80s, the 101st that night.
We'll talk about that in a little bit.
But anyway, I should have
How
been with that.
coincidental would that have been? That would have been, so where did they what infantry unit did they put you with?
Right away, right there, you're going to 25th.
Okay, so now you got to get to Vietnam.
Yeah.
How did you get to Vietnam?
I flew.
From Oakland.
Yeah, I went to Yuma, got a couple of weeks, and
Mhm.
then I went to Oakland.
Now you said you hadn't flown too much.
No.
What was that 24-hour plane ride? What was that like for somebody that hadn't flown much?
I'd never flown anything, and then that was an experience.
Gosh, I guess. It seemed like
And,
it seemed like the longest time to me when I went over there. I know that.
But I was always good with people. The guys would always help me along, and I'd have to say that they told me what to expect and all that.
Okay. And when you flew in to Vietnam, I think, if I'm not mistaken, you went into Ben Hoa. Is that right? Ben Hoa Air Force Base.
Saigon.
So, okay, you went to
Tan Son Nhut.
Okay, Tan Son, because some guys went there and other guys went to
Yeah,
Ben Hoa
Ben
first.
Hoa.
What was your impression when they stopped and opened the door of the airplane?
My first impression was that this ain't much different than Yuma, 'cause it was hot. And
Except
It
it
is.
was humid there.
yeah,
And isn't Yuma dry?
yeah, but it was still hot, but I knew it was. But I'd never seen so many Orientals before.
Okay. Yeah, because in Yuma, I don't suppose
No,
the
not
only
too much.
Orientals you saw is if you went and got Chinese dinner, right?
Yeah, there wasn't that much in around here then either.
Okay. And so you got off the plane, and then I think, if I'm not mistaken, didn't they take you to Long Binh? To a little reception type thing where they made you stay for a couple of days until they figured out where you were going?
I don't remember. All I remember is I think I got on a convoy and came right to the base camp.
Coochie.
Coochie.
Okay. Now, when you got, did they take you right up to the company area and drop you off?
Yeah.
Who was the first person you met when you got off that truck?
That first person was a master sergeant, a white-haired man, big man, and he was a good man. He really cared for the guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked him right off the bat. And he said, "Just your stuff in and get settled in." And I went with some guy after that.
So you stayed in Coochie and a hooch that night, probably?
Yeah.
Okay. And then did they have you go to that little Vietnam school? Remember they had the little booby trap or whatever?
Yeah.
What do you remember about that?
I got out of that. I didn't have to take that.
How did you do that?
I just didn't show up. They had me in the field. A couple of guys were killed. I think we lost a captain or something from a new guy. This is coming from me. And then they sent me out, and I avoided that.
Do you remember if anybody else went out there with you?
I think Cal came in later, a couple of days later.
Okay. So do you remember where?
I went with a guy that was he got killed. I forgot his name. And he went to the other company, the other platoon, and I stayed with
Second
platoon.
So he might have went to first or something, first platoon or something like that.
Yeah, but he got killed. He got his head cut off.
Hmm. So do you remember where the guys were at when you joined them out in the field?
Where were they? Where were they? That captain was killed. No, I don't remember.
But it wasn't a fire support base.
No.
I mean, it wasn't like where they had artillery pieces set up in a wire and perimeter.
Mm-mm.
You guys were just like out there, right?
Yeah.
They were out there just in the field. When you got to the platoon, who was the first guys that you met?
First guy that I met, probably have to say Bruiser.
Mm-hmm.
Bruiser was there, and Opie. You never found Opie, huh?
I don't know what his name is.
Yeah, I don't either. That might have been his name.
And Cutler was, or Bruiser was Dale Cutler, right?
Yeah, Cutler is, but he wasn't the first one. There was a black man that was my first sergeant, and he got tore up pretty bad. Dixie would know him because he was the radio man.
Okay.
And this guy, we got in a big firefight, and he got all blowed to hell, man. He got blood all over him, but his first thought was to take care of us. I said, shoot, man, take care of yourself.
Yep. So when you went into the platoon, how many men were in the platoon, do you think? Can you remember or guess how many guys were there?
There was less than 10.
Oh, man. So immediately you're going into a platoon that's been beat up.
Yeah.
And you're a replacement. So you're a new guy going in because these other guys have gotten hurt or killed.
Yeah, these guys, Bruiser came in when that black guy went out, the black sergeant. And there was only like, this platoon was already point platoon because they had the less guys.
Okay,
they didn't care.
Yeah. So you're a brand new guy. What did they tell you were going to do?
Yeah, well, then we have this other buck sergeant, a black guy, and he said, Pillar.
Oh, Pillar, yeah, okay.
He was there, and we would go out on, he said, you're going to start walking point night. Okay, just show me what to do. Okay.
He was going to teach you how to do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're going to take off. You're going to take off. You're going to take a look at where you're going to go during the daylight. I'm going to turn my back, and you look over your right or left shoulder, my left shoulder, and then you see that my right side, and then that's where you're going. Pick a spot out there, and you're going to go till I say stop. and then you're gonna stay on the sun's the moon,
Mm-hmm.
and then follow the stars if you have to. He said it should be easy to you.
Did you count steps?
No.
Have you ever heard of that? Where they
Steps.
count steps to figure out how many meters you were going to a certain spot?
No. A click, you mean? For clicks?
Or 100
100
meters,
feet,
whatever.
yeah.
I mean, I'd heard guys say that point guys used to count steps. They'd count how, and that gave them an indication of how far they'd gone.
I don't know how it seemed kind of comforting with me. And something else I could see in the dark.
You could.
I'll tell you this little secret. I found out that if I looked up, I could see what's in front of me. Somehow the blackness was silhouetted more if I looked up. So I kept an eye up a little bit more. And it worked.
And so you'd see movement if there was
Yeah,
movement.
I could do that, and I don't know. I told that to Gail because it took me a little bit to get. What am I doing? It worked.
And do you remember that very first night ambush that you went out on? Were you on point the very first time?
I don't know. It might have been maybe the two of us.
But I mean, so then you got and set up. You set up the ambush.
Yeah.
And did anything happen that night?
Well, we'd set up sometimes, and Bruiser would set it up. Because Bruiser was out there with us, Cutler, or even Sergeant Glover. Hannah, of course, Hannah came a little bit, not very far. We was all stuck. It all worked out together.
Mm-hmm.
And
Now, did Glover come in when Bruiser left?
yeah,
Okay, so they kind of they kind of passed.
yeah.
Okay, and by the time Glover got there, you probably were walking point, right?
Yeah.
And by the time Glover had got there, had you been in a firefight yet?
Oh yeah, I've been in so many of them. Then. Yeah.
How did you react the very first time you were shooting?
The very first time, like I think I told you this, they had us stand up and charge this island, and we lost a lot of guys. They asked us to get up and charge. They said it was three calibers, 3 30s, or a couple of 50s.
Okay.
And this island was out there. You know what I'm talking about, an island. And then all around it was just open ground. And this thing was just, get online.
Who gave that command?
Who gave that command? Lieutenant Pernucci, I think. Or another lieutenant. It was a lieutenant. And when they got 100 guys.
Was Rogers there before
It
that?
might have been Rogers.
Okay.
It might have been Rogers. And they got us online. And I'm looking, because I'm the end guy.
And is this daylight?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I had the date too, and I think I gave it to you before. It wasn't very far, and I was looking down the line, and we were all on line, and because I was the end guy.
Yes.
And they started advancing, and then we did this thing. There's across one berm, onto the next berm. I'm thinking every berm was like 50 yards.
That sounds about right.
50 yards apart, and there was 2 berms we did. And these are big, fat berms.
Yep.
They're not no little thingies. And jumping them, hurling them, and then onto the next. And then they start popping off at us. And then everybody starts popping back. They say, get in line, and then we start popping back, and we get up within 20 feet. And we can see them popping their heads up. They're in the trench.
Mm.
And then these jets are probably coming in at the same time. And we're starting to fire, and then they're jumping up. And I hear a guy named Digger.
I think it was bigger.
He died later.
Yeah, that was bigger. Yeah.
And he said, I got one. He's all shook up. The adrenaline's starting to flow now. And everybody that I'm seeing, old guys dying now. And then said, turn around, and then somebody gave the order to fall back. And then we fell back again. We got our wind, boy, and then and it said, get on line again. We're going to do this another time. We're going to get in there.
And you're carrying an M16 at this point?
No, I'm carrying ammo for, I forgot his name. Cal knows him. He got killed. And, I'm carrying about 500 or 600 rounds
oh
for him.
my God, you were.
I was I was a heavy. And then what's that? Anyways, he's carrying the 60. He's a big, tall guy from Georgia. And being blue-eyed and everything. And Cal was carrying about the same stuff too. And then we got up there. We had to stay kind of close to him because he runs out. Then we got to flop some to him. And we did that another time. Got up there, and then we got in 15 feet
oh
maybe.
My gosh!
And guys are dropping, and we're dropping some other guys, and and now they said, get back. What do they say? Get back and do this. Going back again.
Did you get anybody wounded or killed at that point?
Oh yeah, we're hurt.
We're getting wounded.
Yeah, but now this major up there, I can see him flying around up there.
In that little helicopter.
A little bitty old helicopter. He's staying way up there. And then this jet coming in, he's dropping gas.
Napalm.
Well, first gas. We had
like CS gas.
Yeah, and none of us have a thing.
A gas mask.
So we're in the back. So the one side says, take your towels and dump them in water. And we wrapped them around us. And still it doesn't, all it does is activate.
And if it got in your eyes.
Yeah, and it's a get going. And then we did that another time. And then this jet's coming in with this napalm. And that's my first time seeing this big metal thing flopping, coming down just and boom. And all of a sudden I see this black shell come right at me. And I'm on the ground, we're all on the ground. I'm flopping from here to there, and this thing just like following me like a magnet. And I thought, oh crap. And it's gonna hit me, and I just bundled up as bad as I could. About took my leg off. It just hit me right there. That big old chunk of metal.
Yep.
It bounced off of me. I heard it bounce. And I hit, and
did you know you were hurt?
Oh yeah,
so
I hollered out too. And one big guy he jerked me around here. You still got your foot? And so I said, well, he's out of here. So they hauled me out, and I heard that they just surrounded the place, pounded it some more.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And they didn't go in no more. That was 3 times was enough. And so what did they do? What did they say? Well, they sent me back, but anyway, they just waited and waited till next morning. Chased them out, let them go out. They found some bodies, not a lot. But, they'd carry them away.
When did Cal Johnson join you?
I think about 3 or 4 days later. He was.
So right about the same time. And did you guys right off the bat get like each other and get to working together? Yeah,
we kind of knew each other which way they was going. Sometimes we'd work good, kind of lethal, and 2 pair.
Yep.
And worked on point like that, and it worked out.
Yep. And then what was it like when now was Hannah there first or Glover?
Hannah.
Okay, what was it like when he came in?
Hannah was great. He was good. He was easy with me, and and likable guy. You wanted to do everything you could for him. And I said, I like this guy, and I'll do the best I can.
You told me a story once when you guys were out on an ambush patrol, and
Oh, yeah.
Hannah grabbed you and said, "We're going to go out a little ways, like we're going to be a little listening post."
Yeah.
And you guys were down next to the berm. Do you remember the story I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think so. But we got hit that day. We got hit, and I think Sergeant Glover was there too. But he put me in. We were all split up that day, that night. And so he put me, Hannah and me together. And we was up front, kind of like next to a canal. And three bunches of us here and there. And then a pop. I saw the flare pop. That's what you're talking about. But before that pop, Hannah said, "I hear something." I hear something, Willie. He had the biggest ears.
Oh, yes.
He had the biggest ears, and he could hear things. And they said, "It's coming our way." And we're not talking loud.
Whispering.
We're down to just a little bit of whisper. And anyway, that flare, we was already getting ready. And I remember Hannah was just, "What do we do, Willie?" And he did that pop, and then if they took the left, they was going to run right into us. And they wasn't 8 foot from us. That's how close they was. They was even closer than that. And they took they went to the right. And I saw these bayonets, these long bayonets. There's about 3 or 4 of them. And he said, "Willie," there was more behind them, a bunch more behind them.
Yep.
But these 4 stood out, and they were following their point man. And he took that right. And and I said, "Now, Willie," he was saying, "Now, Willie. Now, Willie. Now." And then we hit it, "Now." And then we ripped them right there. And they just started shooting, and then they took off. We hit a bunch of them. And then he said, "Simmer down." And we was already, we was already juiced
remember how
up.
the adrenaline used to hit you?
We were just juicing. And we just stood right there, was feeling each other, making sure we're okay. And I think Bruiser's. It was Bruiser. Bruiser came and said, "You guys all right?" "Yeah." And then Bruiser was there, not Sergeant Glover yet. And then we saw the blood. We saw a couple of bodies, but we hit them. We hit them real good. Not so count them dead. They couldn't carry what we hit. We took them right off at the neck.
Was that the time that Hannah messed his pants?
No, you know where he got it messed at when they.
Well, I knew there was a story about that.
Yeah, he messed his pants when we got human waved. Remember? I guess you were there. He was in they were coming up talking English, talking our lingo.
Oh my gosh.
"We're coming in tonight to kill you. We're going to come in at 12 o'clock and we're going to kill you, GI. They were really rattling us. And they come up with, I think we had a body count like 60 or 70 of them. They were driving them, dumping them everywhere they could. And that's when that Spooky came through too. And then they were right on us. And we was out there and trying to get around them. But he told me that he got in, he messed his pants so much that they came and shooting and everything. Didn't he? That was the funny way he said it.
Well,
at the time it wasn't funny, but it was funny.
Yeah.
And he brought it up. He was.
And you know what?
It.
He probably wasn't the first guy that.
No.
That.
But all PR sales and everything.
Yeah.
Man, he's got
I know.
a bunch of yelling. That's one quick way of sobering you up. You hear a bunch of 100 guys, Orientals yelling at you, gonna kill you.
Yeah.
Sober a man up fast.
So Glover comes in, and was Hannah the platoon sergeant?
Yeah.
So what was Glover? Just a new guy to the platoon?
Yeah, it's just another guy.
And how did you take to him?
I liked him. He didn't, some guys didn't like him. I liked him. Some black guys already. It was starting to get kind of racist.
Yeah.
But we kind of had to settle that down, because that's no place for that stuff.
Yes.
Because another guy has to work harder. Like Keller Isis, for instance, would have to work harder because another guy says, "I'm being picked on. I don't want to walk point."
Yeah,
so
right.
That's
right.
That's the wrong way to be.
Now, do you remember who the lieutenant was at that time in the platoon?
No,
When did Per Nugent come in?
Paranugent. I remember a lieutenant wanted to walk point one night. I'm thinking that's him, and because a bruiser was there. He wants to try point with you, and he wants to go in front of you, and you walk behind him. And I said, "Oh, this ought to be real fun, huh?" Anyway, he said something the next morning. And I'd tell him, and I'd stuck right with him. And don't go that way. That just stay right with me.
Was he just real anxious, Willie?
He was that, "I want to try what point is like, what you're going through." And so, okay, well, we'll try. And then the next morning he said he had told the bruiser, or Sergeant Glover, I think it was bruiser, I could feel him, feel him looking right through me at dark. That's how I was watching him.
Yeah.
Every move he made. I told you I could see it dark. And I'm not exaggerating that either, boy. Anyway, I think he's alive, ain't he?
No, Per Nugent was the one that when you guys walked into a bunker complex and all hell broke loose and he was standing up there and there was a gook in a hole and you were on...
Oh, yeah, that holler, yeah, he was hollering like crazy. There's a radio man was with him too,
Yes.
named Johnson, I'm guessing. That man got him killed. He said, "Get in there. They're in this tunnel." So I went in there.
You
went in and fired.
were the RTO. Had they come out and shot yet? Were they shooting at you guys?
They were already shooting. He done shot another Indian, got in the stomach.
Grits.
Chief.
Chief, and his last name was Grits.
And he was, well, I don't know.
Yeah, that's who it was.
He was from Navajo.
Yep.
That's what he said he was, and he said he's from Arizona. But I never could get him to talk with me. He said, "Too much Indian in you." He didn't want to say nothing to me. Anyway, he got him, and there was, I think, a little black guy got shot. They were alive when I saw them. And then Paranoid, he said, "Get in there." It was a sniper in a tunnel, and he had an opening over here, and you get in the back way. He was in the back side of a canal. And then I went in there firing, and by the time he's still standing out here in the front giving some orders, "Get in there and kill that man." And I'm trying to get around this corner, and he's not. And I stood up right there, and I just glanced out, and he took it right in the head.
From that guy that was in
That was in there. He took it right in the head. And then Johnson, his radio man, because they liked him, and I could see that he landed, and we was in water, and he was still floating. He was dead already.
Oh yeah.
And then Johnson took another shot in the head. And I went in firing again, and then that was it.
Did you guys, were you much for carrying grenades?
I didn't like them, but I had a couple of, not all the time.
Would that have been a situation where you could have thrown a grenade in there?
Yeah, she had one. Now the lieutenants would have had one, but he didn't think enough to get me to throw one in there.
I see what you're getting at, yeah.
But
So how did that affect the platoon? The lieutenant gets killed, the RTO gets killed. How many wounded that day?
well, there was 2 wounded that I saw, and then 2 dead.
Well, 3
One.
because of Chief.
Well,
Did the RTO die or did he live? No, Johnson.
He died.
Oh, did he?
Johnson died.
Yeah, because he took a headshot too.
He-
So,
both of them
in other
did.
words, that day was a mess.
Yeah, 1 man. And then sergeant, another sergeant, reserve. What's his name? Nobody liked him. This guy was all for himself.
Mm.
I can't remember his name. He wanted every medal there was.
Did he just come out and say that?
Yeah, he said I'm gonna get every medal that I can get. And then
You know what? That's a kind of guy you want to stay away from.
this man was he was Army Reserve, National Guard.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I don't have no idea what he's doing over there, but everybody knows what his intentions are.
Yeah.
His intentions are to get what he can, and to hell with everybody else. Cal Johnson told me, he said he heard him say, "Let Willie die, leave him over there." I was still in the freaking hole, and he heard him tell the other captain, "Leave him, leave the point man." And then Cal told me this later on, that I was rode off.
Oh, man.
That's how hungry that guy. I just know his name.
There
But
was
Cal knows
there
him.
was another story where Bruiser was involved. The platoon had gone up a hill or something, and the point element, 2 or 3 guys got separated. They got trapped. They got pinned down, and the rest of the platoon, the lieutenant ordered everybody to back up or to retreat, and he said, Bruiser said, "We can't retreat because I got guys up there on that hill. They're pinned down." And the lieutenant said, "No, just leave them." Do you remember that incident? Because Dixie tells a part of that story where he turns to the lieutenant and he says, "We don't leave anybody. We don't leave anybody out there." And the lieutenant said, "I'm giving you a direct order." And instead of, and then Bruiser goes by himself. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Tell that what happened in that deal.
Let me stand up, man. My legs are cramping. That is in that book. You got the book? I can show you where he's at.
I don't have it with me, but yeah.
I got that book, and it's in there. What? I got to tell you, where did it begin at?
But was the finish of the story, did Bruiser go back up there for him?
Yeah, I think so.
And then he got him out, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then I think, if Dixie
Bruiser
told me correctly, Bruiser then told that lieutenant something to the effect of, "Don't ever turn your back," you know, type of thing, right?
Yeah. Something like that. There might have been some threatening. I don't know.
Yeah.
But you know, Hannah, Bruiser, and Sergeant Glover were the best that I'll answer to.
They would never have left anybody like that.
They would never do whatever that captain or lieutenant would do.
Yeah.
Or that other sergeant.
Yeah.
Or even Pillar would do. It's only Pillar I learned because he didn't want to do it no more. Pillar.
Yeah.
And he was just. They were starting to. The guys came first, and that's how I believed it, and that's what I did.
When you were walking point, did you ever actually walk up on any gooks?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about. Tell me a little bit about that.
What happened to, did Cal tell you about that story?
Maybe.
Did he tell you about the finding that Gook and
Yeah.
was finding it that we were, now this is not is about his courage, because he got great courage, but I would be probably doing the same thing too. He walked around this big tree, and we was and I seen him looking, because we was always together, and I seen the rifle shaking. What's on it, Cal? And I'm not talking loud. This is daylight, and I'm coming around too. But I've got my safety off. I'm ready, and so is Cal. It just caught him off guard for a second, but it sometimes happens. And anyway, up against this tree was a young boy, and he's got this AK right there, just squatting down. And he's not a young boy. He's probably my age or a year or two older. And anyway, and I so crud. We should. Well, he still had that weapon. I went in and grabbed that weapon. I'm not saying nothing about me either. I'm not putting myself above it or nothing. I went in and grabbed that weapon, and I threw it out to Cal, and I grabbed him by the hair, because they had that porcupine hair all the time.
Yeah.
And it was always easy to grab him. I grabbed him and threw him out, and then Cal got all right, and then he says, "Wow, man."
And that's the one that Cal took the guy's wallet.
Yeah, he's got that. Still got that wallet.
Still got the wallet, and it had the picture
of that boy
and his family.
Yeah.
I wonder whatever happened to that Vietnamese. Yeah, because they took him in as a prisoner, right?
They make chew hoys out of him? Back then they used to try to, but you still couldn't trust it.
Oh, the chew hoys, yeah.
They try to see where your loyalty is.
If they would work for us.
Yeah, see how far it go. And what had happened anyway, I remember somebody, they kind of circled this guy, and I was already lost. I was really mad about, I think Hannah was dead. And and I was ready to do something, but they were kind of pumping me up, give me a knife.
They were trying to talk you into killing this guy?
I do my job the other way. Anyway, we don't. One sergeant came up later and said, "We don't." It was Glover. Glover was there. We don't take prisoners. Well, it says here. Anyway, they took him back.
Yeah.
That one guy, you're here or there, you're not in the same situation.
Yeah.
But anyway, he didn't kill either one of us, and we got away with it.
There's another incident where we were asked to be a blocking force outside of Dodge City West, and the 101st Airborne was going to go in on one end of the village, and it was late in the afternoon, and remember they were going to sweep in, and hopefully they were going to run them into us, remember, and we were going to go ahead and tell us that story.
Well, the way I figured out is that they had us, they really knew what, they had this village people in there, and they were going to walk all over this. We came in to help out the 101st, my understanding.
Yeah, that's true.
And they had us spread around really thin.
Yes, sir.
And I was with Sergeant Glover, and I think Nassau, because he had the radio.
Yep, it was the three of you, and you were on the left flank.
Yeah, the left side. I remember I'm almost putting it right there. And then the flares are going off around there. And then they're going to use this village as a put them in front of them to shield them. And that's how they got through, to get through the 101st. They killed a lot of guys over there that I knowed. Now the one reason I knowed who this was, because I saw 8 guys coming from 101st, and the flares were popping off, and we're still dodging bullets here, and these guys are dragging, holding on to each other. Everyone's been hit.
Oh.
Everyone is just holding each other up, dragging somebody along at the 8 guys. And I don't know how I figure 8, but anyway, I've seen this, and then I start noticing these guys. Then I said, "This is my 100. These are my guys. I should have been with." And anyway, and then they started. We just got away. And,
Didn't they run the women and children right towards you and Glover, and weren't they coming right straight to you?
Yeah, I remember some kids and
Glover. Remember Glover wouldn't shoot.
Yeah, but we knew who was doing it. We knew what was going on. I didn't kill no kid.
That wasn't the night you got shot in the helmet, was it?
That night, yeah. I think it was that night when I got bounced around in the helmet, in between the liner and the helmet, and then it fell out. We'll talk about it. That guy. He had to have a scope to see me.
Oh yeah.
He had to have a scope, to look at me through dark, and he had the tracer on me. I saw the tracer. I saw it coming, and I just slid, and then it just clinched me. I heard the crack.
Did it knock you down? I mean, did it make you feel goofy?
Yeah, well, it put a shock in my ear. I know that.
Oh, that's not the one that went in the helmet.
Yeah, this one. I saw that tracer round coming right at my head, and I went down. And then it went in somehow in between, and then or went through there, and the hell, I can't even remember now. I had to go in between there. It's something God did.
But Glover thought you were headshot.
Yeah, and I said, "I'm not dead yet." I remember saying that to him. I said, "I'm not dead yet, Glover." And he kind of cackled maybe. I just, but. I wasn't dead yet.
But that was a horrible night for the 101st, wasn't it?
Oh man, think about it. What I said that I saw the next morning, and I saw nothing but feet piled on, hanging out the doors.
The
On one side was they were taken
They were just stacked in there.
Just stacked up inside. They lost a buku guys, man. A lot of them. A lot of that's through stupidness.
Yeah,
Because officers were that way.
Yeah. The thing that I never could understand about that is why they had them in there at night. I mean, moving in line, kind of like sweeping through the village at night. I never could figure that out.
It's lucky they didn't do it us either.
Oh, no kidding.
When we looked down there, I saw them flares going. All I saw was this mob of black moving fast, and it must have been over 100 men.
Yeah.
I'm figuring, because that Glover and I just saw it, and it was going away from us.
Yeah.
And it was,
But Glover said later he actually thought that was the night you guys were going to get killed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He
said
that was it.
He said he looked at you and Willie, and he said, "Willie, Naso, this is not going to be. This isn't going to turn out good."
I remember him looking at us, at me, and been nice knowing you. Yes, that kind of a feeling.
Yeah.
And we figured on dying. There was nothing we could do. I just shoot what we can and die.
Yeah. Did you take an R&R?
Yeah, I got.
Where did you go?
I went to Japan, Yokohama.
Tell us a little bit about what that was like.
That was just one big drunk. It was a 7-day drunk. And that's in Yokohama. And I really didn't like it. It's because you're within Orientals, but anyway, I just stayed in the room and had some girl up there, and that was it. But that was about it. I think
Up to that point, did you drink in the field?
I would have a beer or two.
They gave us beer.
Yeah.
Remember they'd give each guy
Yeah.
2 beers? But you weren't drunk in the field, right? You were keeping yourself.
No, no, I wouldn't do that to you guys.
No, I'm just saying though. You know, there were some guys that would get pretty,
Some guys would even smoke that stuff or
Yep.
whatever. I didn't like that.
yep.
I didn't, I might have got drunk, but, I was drunk that night, but I did pretty good. That night they started mortaring us, and I was throwing grenades. I was walking through these mortars, boom, boom. Willie's gonna get killed, and I was figuring a human wave coming in.
Oh yeah,
That's what right away they do that.
yeah.
And I started walking to my front bunker, and then boom, all around me, nothing. It was like walking this way, and I walked right in, and I got a case of grenades. There was a guy there with a Pathfinder. He was getting ready to ship out. He had that dog with him. I worked point with a dog too. And anyway, he watched me flip them. I'm gonna cook them. I count them. I was counting them.
Oh,
I counted 1, 2, and I was throwing them that they exploded in the air.
right
I
over
cooked
over the top.
over the top of that, where the wire was. If they was gonna come through there, they was gonna die.
They were going to pay for it.
And I went through that whole case. He got so scared of me. He said, I just crawled in there. He was a Mexican guy. I just crawled in the bunker and just held myself. I said, I just know you're gonna die right now. Cooking.
Oh yeah, I know
And,
exactly.
And and I just count them off and they blowed up in the air. Nothing touched me. Nothing could touch me that night. Sergeant Glover got so mad. Next time I want to see bodies on that damn wire.
Yeah.
Nothing came out. Every wire was blown apart.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Just
Were you there when Herb and I got trapped out in front?
where was I? No. Sergeant Glover told me, and somebody else, or a couple of guys, watch the rear, or the flank, or something.
Was that Cal Johnson? I think it was you and Cal, wasn't it?
Maybe. I don't know. I can't. It must have been because we're always, I want to say together, but anyway, he says, because I'm going up there, and I didn't know nothing about that yet. Nothing I can remember of. But anyway, I heard about that because everybody's spread thin, really bad. And who's up there?
Glover, Hannah, Nye, Coy Strobel,
Yeah.
Rabbi.
You're there, ain't you?
No, I wasn't there.
Sergeant Snorkel, I want to say Sergeant Snorkel, that guy.
Was Lee Ketchum there by that time?
Lee? Yeah, Lee's around there too. In Tate Inn, we dusted a bunch of guys there. And Tate Inn was real bad.
And as I recall, they couldn't get to Strobel and Nye because they were just...
Strobel and not. Oh, you're talking about those 2 guys that got killed from ambush underneath the tunnel. And he went in with a torch.
Flamethrower.
That flamethrower.
That was the next day, next night or the next day. Yeah.
He went in there and he burned them alive.
Have you ever seen anything like that?
When how they were killed, they ambushed them.
I mean, but had you ever seen a flamethrower out there before?
No.
I mean,
No.
I wonder where that even came from.
That was supplies.
And Glover told me, he said he was so fed up because they couldn't get they couldn't get a victory. In other words, you know, it was like a stand-up. They were throwing grenades at each other, right, back and forth. And he said he saw that flamethrower there, and he said he just strapped it on and tuned it up and just said the hell with it and walked right out there and started flaming.
Yeah, it's that thing's touch and go. Those things are. Even the World War II guys would say they were afraid of those things.
Can't trust them.
And you're a kid. Nah, not really.
Yeah.
You're like a human bomb.
Ugh.
You know, but you know, like me with the grenades, him and that torch, and things go together though. They work out.
Yeah. So, besides getting the piece of napalm canister,
Yeah.
did you get any other wounds? Any other Purple Hearts?
Oh, from that shell thing, I got
That was one.
I got the piece of grenade on my shoulder. I got that, and that was through bruiser. Just because I'd throw the grenade and that guy would come back and hit me. And there was another one trying to throw one at me too. The dink was
so you threw the grenade and he threw it back.
And he was throwing me one at or his own.
Oh,
and I said, "Oh, be damned!" I tried to walk on water, and my water was up to my knees. Yeah, what a mess that was.
Was it painful?
That was when Khan. Khan was that boy's name.
The weatherman.
No, Khan, the machine gunner.
Yeah.
Weatherman was killed. I told that weatherman he was out there only 3 or 4 days. I guess he was Dasher told me he came from a radio station and
he was a meteorologist.
I don't know what.
And why he ever wound up out with the Wolfhounds, I have no idea.
And
he was in a radio. Oh, he was in a radio station back in the States.
Yeah.
He was a disc jockey. And then when he went in the Army, they sent him to weather school, you know, like reading weather and all that kind of stuff. And he wound up with you guys. But he was the one that stood up on the berm.
Yeah, I told him he had to walk flank and stay with Willie. Yeah, everybody stay with Willie. Yeah. Well, I told him. I was looking up in front of him. This was that night when Hannah and I found when Hannah heard those bunch coming after us. This is during the day. We're out here in the nowhere land. And I said, walk the flank. Let me walk further out from you. And keep your eyes on me. When I get down, you get down. And sure enough, he didn't listen. He's walking way up on top of another berm, and I'm walking against this big canal, and I'm trying to keep my eyes in this inside of here, and he's walking just dawdling, and because I know I saw him, and I getting ready to, and I heard something, and I was getting ready to go down, and he didn't go down, and I turned around to the side. And that guy just walked right up, right through his head. And I seen him flop. You know, and I'm already in the canal.
Yeah.
And then this is where I'm starting to fire. I know where they're at, but I don't know how many's up in front of me. And so we just start firing at everything. And that's about what happened with him.
What was the worst day or night in Vietnam for you?
Oh, I don't know. There's been a lot of them. Being left alone. I think everybody's fear was, don't get left alone. Don't come back dismembered.
Oh yeah.
Don't be taken prisoner.
And you saw so many guys get hurt really bad.
Confusion.
Didn't you?
I tried to help, I think, but you know, your medical stuff is limited. You're taught in the Army either stick your finger in the wound and then go from there. That's about
Stop-
knowledge there is.
Stop the bleeding the best
That's,
you can.
that's the only thing you can do. You couldn't do nothing else. I remember the guy that got run over with that tractor, that APC.
And that was in Tainin, was
Came
it?
in then
Tell us a little bit about that.
We got to Tainin. That place was nothing but infested. The rubber patch, rubber plantation. The whole city was dadgum against you. And then they put us in front of the APCs. Sergeant Hanna got hit in the ass.
Mm-hmm.
That's where, and he said, "You taking over?" So, oh man, I didn't want that. And so that's where Lee came in. But I didn't work. I worked better my way. So I did it with. I watched the guys. But these guys, they turned right on it. They can turn on a dime.
Yes.
And they just, somehow we got separated, and they turned on him, and he got tangled up under. They walked right up over his chest.
Kill him?
Not right away. Then they called me, and I said, "Oh shit! Look at you." I can't remember his boy's name.
Was he a Mexican guy?
Yeah, I just can't remember his name. His wife had just had a baby girl.
Hmm.
And then he was from San Francisco, the suburbs. That's all I can know. She'd be about 50. That's going to be that year. And anyway, he said, "Did I do it?" His thought was to please me. Did he do good on point? His last thought.
No.
And that's what I said. "You did great. You did great." And I couldn't believe that he because you're going to go out, so I guess he wanted to go out knowing that he did please somebody.
Wow.
And this man was, he just wanted to walk point. I said, man, but didn't even get a chance really.
When you started to get, let's say you were there for 10 months.
Mm.
Did you start getting nervous or paranoid or thinking, man, I've been here 10 months.
Mm.
Hannah's already gotten killed.
Mm.
Did that bother? I mean, were you thinking about that?
Mm. Probably, but I don't remember it. Bruiser, before he left, he says, "I'm going to give you and Cal a chance to get out before." Now, this is it. And that's when Cal, he said, "I'm going to have to go back, Willie." So he went to, I think he was a driver.
Coochie.
But he went to
Yep.
driving.
A Jeep.
Or a carpenter or something.
Okay.
And anyway, I wanted to stay, and I'm not being no heroic about it. I didn't want to leave Sergeant Glover by himself, and I knew he was going to be by himself,
Yes.
and he wouldn't have nobody there. And I said, "Well, Cal, I'm going to stick it out."
And you know what the sad part about that whole story is, Willie?
Well,
Is that's when all us new guys were there as replacements. We didn't know nothing.
well, I don't remember all that,
But I mean, we came
Yeah.
in as new recruits, and the first thing that Big Joe Wascom
yeah,
said to me, he told me about you.
Big Joe was.
Big Joe. He walked point quite
Yeah.
a bit. And he said, and he told me the story about you. And he goes, Willie is one of the platoon's heroes. He's one of the guys that, has
Yeah.
made it all this time. And so you were like I'm going to say your reputation was phenomenal. Guys looked up at you as being, and I know you don't want to hear that. You don't think you were a hero and you don't want to be called that. But, and he said, "I'm only sorry that Willie doesn't have enough time to teach us, everything that he knows." Because you were just out, you were out there for like 11 months.
I tried,
Honest to Pete.
but I tried to stay 6 more months. And they said, "You're too late, your orders have been rolled up." I said, "Well." But I wanted to be out there with Sergeant Glow. I didn't want to leave him that way.
Do you remember when you had to leave?
Yeah.
Were you sad?
Yeah, I didn't want to go. I think a lot of guys were you don't want to go. The job's not finished.
Yeah.
Or you don't want to leave your buddy or something. Something about it.
I bet Glover said, Willie, you gotta go.
Yeah, he
Didn't
said
he?
something.
Well, he did. You know.
But I stayed at least another month for him, because I didn't want to see him be by himself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I can remember about that night. And I'm not saying knocking Cal, because Cal was time for him to get off that,
Yes.
and it was time for me really.
Yes.
But I stayed on a little bit more, a little longer.
When you finally did get offline, what did you do in Coochie?
Got drunk, and I stayed with Cal, and I think they were looking for me. Some top sergeant. I don't know. They said Glover said stay drunk and stay with Cal or somewhere else. I don't know. So they hid me out.
And I'm thinking because
One day, 1 week.
because you guys had been there so long, they probably just said, don't hassle them. You know,
Yeah.
don't give those guys a bad time, don't you think?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. And so the day finally came. By the way, is there any battle or anything that happened in Vietnam in your 12 months there that I haven't brought up that's important to have on this?
These guys that you all named for me for saying all that, thank you for all them nice things that you guys have said about me. But don't knock yourselves. You guys did a good job, and you guys wouldn't have made it if you wasn't doing a good job. Me, I'm just kind of a little stepping stone to the next part of your world. And I couldn't have been more prouder than to be with you bunch of guys. And I tell you that for truth.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got to serve with 3 sergeants that I could never have served with before in my lifetime. And I'm proud of it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's probably a lot of other things I could say, but without crying. but you know, I told Gail all these things, and Gail knew all the things that I've been happy with. And I was happy just with her and with this platoon. And I wouldn't change it for another split second.
Do you remember when I found you after all those years? When I called on the
When
phone?
you called me?
Yeah.
I didn't know who you was.
I know, but do you remember when I said I was with the Wolfhounds?
Yeah.
Did all of a sudden, did things start coming back and like, oh my gosh, this guy knows names of guys that I served with. Did you get kind of excited about that?
Well, some of them guys, I didn't even know their names, really. But, I got excited because these guys, I had kept this thing buried for so long.
Yes.
And only when I would get drunk or heavy drinking would I bring it out, and then only at home between myself. I wouldn't say a lot of things with other people.
And you know, and I've told you this many, many times, you were like a turning point for me, because up to that point, I didn't have the information about all the guys you served with.
Yeah.
Right? Because I had the information on the guys I served with.
Yeah.
And because you could tell me all these names, and Willie, I don't know how you did it, but you had a memory that was excellent. I mean, you remembered guys' names and incidences and battles, and I mean, it was just.
I just don't remember all the places yet, but I remember them fighting. But I remember, that black guy, that black sergeant, and then the top sergeant, that white-haired man, he got shot too.
Mm-hmm.
He was out there, and he had gone through World War II and Korea.
Wow.
And he was out there in his last, I don't know what. Why was he even there? Because he was a patriotic, or
He was a soldier.
and he was doing his last tour in Vietnam, and was gonna retire. And he got shot, but he lived.
Good.
As far as I know.
Yeah.
And Captain Blackwell. Captain Blackwell, I'm probably saying his name wrong, but Blackwood, but I couldn't have met a better officer that went through World War II and Korea. Too, I guess. Didn't he go through both of those?
I think Korea.
Or Korea. And he came up to the ranks from the hardcore.
That's right. That's right.
You know? And he liked me right away. I liked him.
And you've talked to his daughter, right, Karen?
Yeah.
And she's such a nice girl. She came to the last reunion and met a lot of the guys that had served with her dad and so forth. She didn't really. Her dad was gone so much in the military. She didn't have a close relationship with her dad.
She remember me?
What's that?
Did she remember me?
Oh, you mean the stories about the?
No,
absolutely.
Did she remember that she came to call me from Israel?
Yes. No, that was Khan's sister. That was the weatherman's sister. Karen Blackwood was Blackwood's daughter, and she called and talked to you about her dad, Captain Blackwood. But that girl from Israel was Khan's sister.
I thought it was Cohen. Cohen's daughter.
Cohen, sorry. No, you're
right. Okay,
hey,
Cohen.
Who's the one with the good memory here?
You know, Cohen. She called me. She was divorcing her husband from Israel, and she was going to South America, and called me again.
That's right.
And she says, I'm gonna come up through Texas, and on my way to California, be a teacher. I didn't hear no more from her.
Yeah, I never did either. I talked to her a couple of times, and then I never heard much either.
She wanted to know about her father.
Exactly.
And I said, well, I was only out there a couple of days. He was. And I said, I told her, I said, he was an American. He did his job, and should be awful proud of him. Yep. And that's the only thing I could say.
Yep. And you know what? Basically, that's what else could you say? That was about all there was to say about that.
And Captain Blackwood's...
Blackwood, yeah, his daughter.
Called me too?
Karen, yes, sir. You were the first name that I gave her to call.
Well, what does she want to know?
About her dad, Captain Blackwood.
She didn't know him?
Well, he was always gone in the Army.
Oh.
And so he was gone to Vietnam and then Korea. Remember, he was in Korea.
Yeah.
And so she's growing up. You know how Army kids are. Yeah. And her dad was always gone.
Wow, man.
And then, you know, when her dad would come home, he'd be kind of distant.
Yeah. And I can believe that.
And a little harder maybe than he should have been.
Yeah.
But he sure was a good captain.
Oh, you couldn't believe. He took a lot of heat from us for us. I know these things. And I know that Dixie's on that book. I'm trying to replace at another time what he had said.
And Dixie, so people know, is Jerry Dykstra. That's what Dixie's name is Jerry Dykstra. That's his real name. Dixie was a nickname, and then of course remember Soda Man.
Soda Man. He always traded me his beer for my soda. He was a great guy. I liked him.
Yeah.
Sure do miss that. His wife sent me a picture. He looked so proud in that uniform, that state trooper.
Yes.
I think that's what he was. He did. He always wanted to be a policeman. Even over there, he was an MP.
He was. Yep, he sure was.
Couldn't beat that man.
What did you haven't talked about flying in helicopters?
Oh, helicopters! What? Those things are a trip, man. And lucky I was young. I'd hate to do it when I was old, because boy, you get really wild. Those things.
How many helicopter trips did you take in the year you were over there?
I don't know. You know, we didn't get, no one of us got that medal, and we deserve it.
Oh, we
that medal,
had so many hours
flying.
Yes, the air medal. The air medal.
You got to have like 500 hours or something like that.
Well, not even that many.
You know,
But we had them.
we didn't get it though. Every one of you guys deserved that dadgum medal.
Boy, we flew around Vietnam a lot, didn't we?
Should have been to, I was been in Black Virgin. That's when I first saw that Black Mountain. And then the Iron Triangle, the Hobo Woods, the Cambodia twice that I can remember.
Rubber plantation.
The rubber plantation. Every place was a battle. And that Cambodia just looked, when we flew close to that country, that it looked so dark and.
Oh, it was. Yes.
Man, you get into that night in there, you ain't gonna find no blacker than that kind of a.
And remember,
darkness.
the jungle sometimes was like triple canopy jungle.
Oh, it envelop you.
Did you ever wonder to yourself, why in the world are we in here?
If I did, I don't know why I did.
I mean, I used to think, this is nuts. Why are they? Why, you know, they could have ambushed us easy, because we couldn't see nothing. Guys were up front chopping. Remember, they had the machetes and they were chopping stuff down. And
people got their mindset that these guys they're not supermen. They were long from it, but it was their country.
oh yeah,
But,
they definitely had the
They had
advantage.
advantage there, but they still weren't supermen. You know, and I can remember some things. That's finding that teenager behind in a corner, straw draped over him and covering him, and the woman sweeping in front of it. And I was, what the hell is she doing that for? And I went in there poking, and then there he is hiding. First, what is that? What do we call it, the hippies that run away from the war?
Yeah,
That's what he was. He was
a conscientious objector.
yeah, he didn't want to. She got all pissed off. His grandmother had that red Beetlejuice.
And was hiding.
He was hiding,
Yeah,
so
hiding.
he was gonna get it drafted. He was
Yeah.
avoiding a draft.
Yeah.
You know, these guys, this platoon really deserves so much. Like, you're gonna see that cemetery tomorrow, that 280 guys. Not all of them were killed over there, the Japanese, but you're gonna see that you guys deserve so much from this thing, and it's hard to believe that those guys that ran to Canada and they were welcomed back with open arms and told us, come back, you did real good. And then everybody else kind of has to hide things. I did. I
know.
I hid so much of myself into that thing, and like it's like those guys over there in that cemetery is gonna be. It's a pretty kind of nice thing they did.
Let me ask you this: the day finally came when you got on the jet to come home.
Yeah.
What was that like?
I was just lonely. I didn't. I never could talk for myself. I never explained myself very good, so I kept quiet with myself. And Gail knew these things, and then she would, and then I just didn't know what to say.
So you came home.
A drink.
Who did you meet first when you came home? Did you come to Yuma or on a bus, or how did you get home?
I landed in Oakland, and boy, that was a nasty town. We got off of the plane, they started throwing rocks, or some guys said they even had bags of shit in them.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't know, but I could see it didn't look good. And then calling all kinds of foul names, something that's something that I almost started believing I'd done.
Yes.
What did I do so bad?
Yes.
You feel guilt. You know, why did I do so bad to deserve this? Or any other person?
Sure.
You know, Sergeant Glover or Hannah or Bruiser would never never said something like these
Oh,
things.
heavens, no, no.
So I know that there's something screwy.
So did you come back to your folks' house?
Yeah, but Mom was raised in California. She was already married. I was just kind of in no man's land, limbo.
Where were you living?
Oh, where was I living? I lived in Mexico for a little bit. I stayed down there for a month or so. I lived across the border. And then I come back here and all that. Just
Now, how did you meet Gail? How did that connection? Did you know her in high school?
yeah, I went through 5th grade with her,
Okay.
and I liked her a lot, but she didn't care too much for me. And so anyway, I liked her, and then when I was 24, we got married. She was 26.
Did you just say, "Hey, let's get
Yeah,
married"?
let's just get married. We was at the bar, and I just on 4th Avenue. I said, "We get married." I said, "Yeah, it'll be all right." We did all right.
And then when did you start having a family?
Well, right away, I think we got married in '74, and he was married in '75. He was born.
Okay.
Yeah,
And then the
Clint came '76.
so short a year or two later.
Yeah.
Okay. And what were you doing as far as I think? Didn't you tell me you were working in the sprinkler system?
Yeah, I was doing cattle work. I worked for a cattle ranch out here, down this 95.
Uh huh.
It's just in a museum now. And then, sprinkler. I was working in Sprinkler Jacobson, and I was landscaping.
Okay.
But they taught me a trade, and I could do things. And then I was working in construction. I was always, and then driver and all this. Then lumber finally lumber. And then that way, but you know, these things, a lot of dullness to everything, but every time Vietnam came around, it never went away.
This is for you in your mind.
Yeah, it never went away. And I tried always to do what's right. You getting bored?
Not yet.
No, not hardly.
You're just hearing all this stuff. I don't know what your dad wants me to say. I don't know. I remember some things. About where you at on that page?
Almost done. When you came home, did you have any time left to serve in the service?
No, I went to Letterman Hospital. I was having problems. Like I said, I was going drinking. I was down here.
Now tell me what's Letterman?
Letterman's right outside of Fort Ord. Letterman House, the big.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's a big Letterman House from World War II, left over from the halls. I mean, that thing's halls are the longest I've ever seen.
Oh my gosh.
And they had Vietnam guys in there from that were having problems like me,
Yeah.
and they couldn't get them over with. They had them from wounds, and then had a place that they get about 100 of us together to talk, and then these guys they were dealing with a lot of things, and I could see now that they weren't getting the right help because nobody knew how to help them.
Well, you were
No.
right. You were right there.
You know,
How many
No.
people were able to help you?
I couldn't even help myself, you know.
Yeah.
Nobody could help them. The doctors didn't know what to do. They didn't know. That's why they would say, "You guys get together and pick things what you want to do." And me, I was discharged from that and all that. So
Did you have the typical problems like a lot of us did? You couldn't sleep and you had nightmares and things like that?
I still got those things.
Mm-hmm. It's just something that just never leaves, does it?
It never will. These
Yep.
things are always going to go on till I'm gone.
Yeah, yeah.
I've talked to guys from World War II that don't get rid of it.
Still,
Or
yeah.
Korea. You read history books on the Civil War, and these soldiers would raise up from the sleep on guard, like they was going after the same thing. Soldiers, the Yankee soldiers or Confederacies,
Yes.
like they was going right after you. They'd wake up. You read into books.
Yeah.
You can hear a lot.
When you came home, did you keep in touch with any of the guys that you served with?
I don't know how Teach found me, and that's Kelly.
Dave Kelly.
Dave Kelly. And then Tubbs knew where I was. I don't know why he didn't come here. I told him. Lee was here. I bumped into Lee.
And that's Lee Ketchum.
Lee Ketchum at pizza place
Right.
up here. He was, I know you. I looked at him, I said, I'll be damned, it ain't. What are you doing here? There he was, there he was, right there in front of me.
And did he have any relatives in Yuma? What in the heck brought him to Yuma?
I gave him my address before I left.
Oh, okay.
People were asking me for my address.
Okay, sure.
And then he got married here while I was gone and coming back or whatever. And he said, I found out later he'd done some bad talking on me. I don't want to bring that up. But his sister died. She had cancer too.
Yeah, I talked to her many times. And she was a very nice lady. She's actually the way I found Lee when he was back in Oklahoma. And Lee got in a lot of trouble in his life after he left here. And he was involved in some pretty serious let me put it to you this way. There was they were looking for him to ask him about a murder and drug deals. So I mean, he was just in the wrong.
I can believe it.
He was in the wrong place in his life. So he ended up going to Oklahoma and taking an assumed name. He took an alias. He went by Lee Alexander.
Yeah.
And Alexander was his stepbrother's last name. He had a stepbrother whose last name was Alexander. So Lee started to hide, so that people wouldn't find him. He went by Lee Alexander, and his sister told me all this. And so that's how, and she told me he's in the VA hospital in Oklahoma City. And I called there, and sure enough, I found out that he was there, and he had terminal cancer, I think. And so Oklahoma is right next to Kansas. So I called Herb Nye, who was the sheriff in Kansas, and I said, and he knew Lee, Herb knew Lee, and I said, I think we got a situation where if somebody doesn't go over and see him, he's gonna be gone. And so Herb stopped what he was doing, drove over there and spent the day with him, and took some pictures of him. And Lee was real glad, to have him visit and so forth. At home, and about a week later, he died. So Ketchum died right there in the VA hospital. But and of course, a lonely life. He was alone, and he just got on the wrong side. Willie, he just got on the wrong side of the law, and I think he had a lot of trouble.
He had his son even hated him.
Yes.
His son, I talked to the only one, and he looks exactly like him. And I said, and then she told me what he had done, and I told you.
I know.
So I said, well, that's it for me. I don't want no more.
Yep. What is your definition of a hero?
Somebody like that. Somebody that's gonna do what you can to take the hurt away and to let it happen to you first. Not to let it happen to anybody else. And that's my definition, and that's what I try to leave.
Yes.
But that's what I saw in them other sergeants, or good people. You take the hurt, you take the blame, and you just
Protect your guys.
protect whatever you can. Yeah, there's your word right there.
What does the American flag mean to you?
Well, that could mean a lot of things. To me, it's going to mean that it's going to be something you got to do something for something, for a nation or for God, but not for yourself. You've got to be doing that for yourself. That flag, I know a lot of religions don't like it, but you still gotta speak up for it.
Yes.
You got to do that. Well, if you don't, then you won't be speaking up for nothing else, or the wrong thing.
Yeah. What did your wife Gail mean to you all those years?
My what?
Your wife Gail.
Oh, Gail. Like today, Gail, I've always loved her, even when I was young. I just would not accept this. When she fell that day, and she screamed to me, I came from the other room, and said, help me, Willie, Bill, I fell down. I see that. And it was on her face. And I couldn't get down to help her because if I went down, none of us were going to get up.
I gotcha.
And so she said, give you the phone. Get on the phone and call them up. Gail suffered for me.
Was it like call 911? Is that what she was saying?
She said that.
Okay.
But she suffered for me. She did everything for me. She didn't want to leave me. She tried to help me in everything. She was always right there to help me if I had a problem. And when they took her to the hospital, they said she's going to be all right. They said she would be all right. And they lied. The doctors flat lied. Then they took her to Phoenix, brought her back, kept her up there. I put that tube in her. And,
what did they say initially had happened?
They said she broke her neck. But this ain't right. This ain't right. They're saying things that ain't right. And then it's respiratory. Then there's all these things. There's a lot of combinations here, but they're all doing the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not. I prayed to God I'd let it be me, and I just couldn't come through. She meant everything to me.
So what finally was the cause of her passing?
Respiratory. They were going to take that tube out. When the boys told me, they said, you need to go to the Tucson. She's over there. I said, I've talked to them nurses on the phone, and I couldn't talk to Gail because she had a thing.
Yes.
But then they said she's going to be all right. And then when I get there to Tucson, everything changes. You know, I'm not God, she said, that one doctor said, we just can't, it's not going to go the way you think. You told me you were going to bring her along okay. And you know, they had turned her, broke her spirit. Because things can happen. And they tell you, well, they didn't want to say that, but I know what they did. They broke her spirit. You ain't gonna be able, might as well just let it go out.
Oh my.
And that's what a doctor's supposed to do. They ain't what a doctor's supposed to do.
Yep.
And anyway, Anthony and I were there, and we saw her go. And I said, you hear me go? Yeah. She nodded her head. And I said, go, don't go. She went, and to this day, I'm ready to go too. I'm tired. I've asked for everything to help. I just want to keep her her memory alive and
Mm-hmm.
the best I can with those rings, and I'll be all right. Then the kids can have everything. Anthony's anyway.
And you know, Anthony, when I was here 10 years ago, I got to meet him, of course, and he turned out to be such a fine boy.
Yeah, can't beat him.
And you know, Gail just loved the daylights out of him.
With her help, boy, she done it.
Yeah, yeah. And so, is there anything that I have missed that you want to add to this? Because
story.
this is the deal. Anthony, the grandkids, the great-grandkids, you and I are going to be long gone, and somebody is going to see this, and I want you to do this, Willie. I want you to give these people, these kids, these relatives of yours in the future, the best advice that you have to give to them. What is your best advice?
Best advice. You know, you're going to make mistakes. A bunch of them. And my best advice would be to go with your hunch. My best advice would love yourself a lot more than you hate yourself. And my best advice would be always to do for others as you would do yourself.
Mm-hmm.
To try to do it anyway. And there's so many things that can be done right, and try not to do the wrong thing. To do the wrong thing is so easy, but to do the right thing is hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to do that. I hope these people realize that. And I hope this platoon realizes that how much I love them, and I'd do again the same thing. I wouldn't change. If I changed, then I'd be fibbing.
Mm-hmm.
That's my point of view.
Well, everybody that we've interviewed that has brought your name up has said, when you get Willie down and you do his interview, you have to tell him how much we appreciated what he did for us in Vietnam, and how many of these guys, Willie, claim that you're the reason that they made it through Vietnam. So if there's such a thing as what you're going to be remembered for, you're going to be remembered for something, Willie, and you know what that's going to be? It's going to be that you were brave, you were caring, you loved these guys. You would put yourself in front of the hand grenade so that they didn't have to take it. And nobody is going to forget that. Nobody is going to forget that, and they haven't forgot it. Because every time we talk to one of them, Willie, your name's the one that comes up. And I'm just telling you, you can know that your legacy, that's what you're going to be remembered for. You're going to be remembered as that guy.
Well, this guy's getting tired. I'm even living. So, like I said, things happen.
Yep. Willie, thank you. I love you, brother.
You'll be all right.
And I can't thank you enough for this time.
Okay. Yeah, all right.